Today, the Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade, ending the right for women to have abortions. This is a major step back for women's rights. If you don't know, Roe v. Wade was a decision making it a constitutional right for a woman to have an abortion, effectively legalizing it. Now, this is an oversimplification of what Roe v. Wade is, but for the sake of keeping this video short, we won't get into the minute details. The Supreme Court officially reversed this decision earlier today, June 24th, 2022. So what does this mean? Well, abortion rights will now be rolled back in nearly half of all of the states immediately, with more restrictions likely to follow. For all practical purposes, abortion will not be available to large portions of the country. Many Americans, especially women, have been very vocal about their frustration with this new decision. After all, these conservative lawmakers want you to use your body to keep birthing babies, but they're the first to deny you any government assistance. They say you can put the child up for adoption, but the adoption system is broken and no one is looking to fix it. They want you to work to support the child, but they don't offer childcare. You can't get your tubes tied without fighting for it because they want your partner's permission, or if you're single, they'll straight up deny you. They want you to birth children into a country that's currently having a formula shortage, making it extremely difficult to feed the children we already have. Their solution? You should breastfeed, ignoring the fact that some women's bodies don't produce enough milk to do so, and even if they did, most jobs in America have little to no system of maternity leave or paid time off for mothers to be able to dedicate time to breastfeeding. You could bring up the absentee father crisis and the fact that fathers oftentimes quite literally walk away from their responsibility of raising their child, and they'll just tell you to seek child support. You could tell them that a large percent of child support orders are not paid on time or in full, usually resulting in suffering for the custodial mother and the child, and they will tell you you should have picked a man who would stay. You could bring up the rape culture in America and the fact that women, who make up the majority of victims, will now be forced to birth their rapist offspring. They will tell you you need to suck it up, ignore your trauma, and birth that child anyway because all life is beautiful. You could bring up the fact that the United States has one of, if not the worst rates of maternal deaths in the developed world, and they will shrug their shoulders as they make laws to actively make it harder for you to avoid these preventable deaths. No matter what issue you bring up, they will ignore it. They refuse to make laws regulating that men take care of their children. They refuse to introduce laws that improve foster care. They refuse to provide mothers and children with financial support, all in favor of instead making laws to regulate your body. They will continue to move the goalpost and talk you into a circular pattern. For every issue that I mentioned, the answer will inevitably be that it's the woman's fault. She should have closed her legs. She should have picked better. She shouldn't have been having sex. She needs to just work harder to support her children.
Get your fucking ass up and work. It seems like nobody wants to work these days.
That's so true.
It seems that in every single conversation, the outcome for the women, who are the people in question whose bodies are being regulated, are the least considered outcomes at all. The outcomes of the children, who they say they are making these laws to protect, are largely ignored. Our government is bold enough to force you to have a child, but too weak to ensure that they make it through recess alive. If this isn't already infuriating enough for you, Clarence Thomas, an Associate Justice of the Supreme Court, called for the Supreme Court to reconsider its rulings on accessible contraceptives. So not only are women being forced to birth children, but he is also suggesting that women will lose access to birth control needed to prevent pregnancy in the first place. Thomas also called for the Supreme Court to reconsider its decision on gay sex and gay marriage. So not even moments after they finish stripping away the rights of women, they are already having discussions to target the LGBT community next. And who's to say that'll be the end? Which marginalized group will they target next? Who will be the victim of their next attack on human rights? With all of this in consideration, I have the same question a lot of people are asking. How did we get here? And what do we do next? After all, less than 30% of Americans support this decision, so it seems apparent that what the majority of Americans desire does not matter. However, to answer the question of how we got here is difficult. It requires a bigger conversation about the voting practices of the United States and the barriers that prevent a significant portion of Americans from voting, and I simply don't have the time today for that conversation. So what happens now? If left unchallenged, I suspect a lot of women will face poverty and are now forced to risk their health and life to birth children. I'm almost certain there will be a national women's strike, march, or protest. Apparently, there's already police presence in preparation for this. So what do we do now? Well, abortion will now become a focal point in the upcoming fall elections. If you're concerned at all about anything I've spoken about today, you need to be voting. It is now more important than ever to vote in your local elections as well. And if you think this is all a bit extreme and that none of women's rights are in danger, keep in mind that there have already been examples of women being punished for having miscarriages, like Brittany Mullah, who was 4 months pregnant when she lost her baby in the hospital. For that, she received a 4-year sentence for manslaughter, of which she's currently served 8 months and is still in prison. Or Marsha Jones, who was shot in her pregnant belly causing a miscarriage. The woman who shot her, Ebony Jemison, ultimately had her charges dismissed based on the state's stand your ground law. Marsha Jones, however, not only lost her child, but was charged with manslaughter. These instances happened before today, so now that abortion is no longer a constitutional right, cases like these I feel will become much more frequent. My advice to women is to keep your pregnancies a secret since you no longer have a right to privacy, and if able, reach out to your health provider for a few months worth of birth control, which I suspect may become harder to access in the near future. So what are your thoughts? I think it's ironic Thomas brought up sodomy laws considering the Supreme Court is fucking us all in the ass. Make sure to leave a like if you enjoyed the video, and if you want to see more like it, consider subscribing, and leave your thoughts in the comments below. My name is Prince Petti, and this has been Man with a Mic.